Hello, Room 102. This is Ms. Warner again for another read aloud with me and our book Front Desk by Kelly Yang. Reflection there. Anyway, yeah, we are going to read another chapter or two from Front Desk today. I think I'm going to aim towards 2 chapters today because they're very short chapters. So we'll be doing chapter 4 and then chapter 5. And afterwards, I'll just give you a short assignment that you can do this week to go with the reading that we've done. So why don't we just get started? All right. Chapter 4. Hank's words thrashed around inside me. Mr. Yao was strict, sure, maybe even a little dramatic, but cool for a heart? Hank couldn't possibly be right. This was the man who trusted us with his motel, was letting us live here for free, and was paying us $150 a day. The first thing the next day, I intended on setting Hank straight, but when morning came, my mother had other plans. "Let's go see your new school today," she announced. I groaned. Another grade, another year as the new girl. When you moved as much as I have, checking out schools is like checking out shoe polish. So far, I'd gone to 4 different schools for 5 different grades. Dale Elementary School was about 5 blocks east from the motel and a lot bigger than my old school. It was late August, so classes didn't start for a couple of days. As my mom and I walked across the big empty parking lot, I wondered what kind of kids went there. Nice kids, I hoped. We pushed open the door to the office, and the receptionist, a blonde lady with big curls that bounced as she moved her head, looked very surprised to see us. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Hi, I want to sign my daughter up for school. We just moved here," my mom said. The receptionist looked at me up and down. I wriggled in my tattered pants and big old t-shirt from Goodwill. "I see," she said. She pushed a button on her desk phone and said, "Principal Evans, we have a new student here to see you." Principal Evans wore a blazer even though it was 90 degrees outside. She looked like what my mother calls a powerful white lady. She insisted on taking us on a tour of the school even though my mom said we didn't need a tour. I could tell she was anxious to get back to the motel. "It'll only take 10 minutes," Principal Evans said, leading us toward the gymnasium in her clickety-clackety black pumps. "So, Mia, tell me about yourself." I opened my mouth, but before I could say anything, my mom blurted out, "She just moved here from China." Ugh. Why does she always have to tell people that? It wasn't even true. We'd been here for 2 years. Of course, as soon as my mother said the words, Principal Evans started talking to me like I was a turkey. "Really? Wow! How do you like this country?" she asked. "I really like it," I quickly answered. Principal Evans put her hand to her chest and exhaled in relief. "Oh, you know English. Oh, that's great. I have to admit, we don't get too many Chinese kids here. There's only one other Chinese kid in 5th grade." She smiled at me and added, "I'm sure he'll be thrilled to see you." On the way home, my mom and I played our usual game, looking at big American houses and trying to figure out who lived inside. "A family with 2 girls," my mom said, pointing to the pink curtains upstairs. "And a cat," I said. There was a little door in the front door. I turned to my mom. "Hey, why do you have to tell the principal I just got here from China?" "So she'd cut you some slack." I stopped peering into the houses and peered into my mom. "What do you mean?" "You heard what she said. There are only 2 Chinese kids in your grade. So? So it probably means most of the other kids are white. So? So they'll be way better than you in English, my mom said matter-of-factly. I looked at the ground. Not necessarily, I said. I might not speak native English like Jason, but my English was a lot better than when I first came, I think. Plus, I liked English. I liked how you could say a train of thought or a blanket of snow, which you couldn't in Chinese. It didn't matter how much I liked English, my mom had already decided. Necessarily, she said. We're going to move on to chapter 5. We were surprised to find the maid cart right where we left it when we got back. It had not moved an inch. In the time that we were gone, my dad had only managed to clean 2 rooms. I don't know how I'm going to get through all these rooms, he said, wiping his sweaty brow with the back of his hand. I'll help you, I offered, rolling my sleeves up. In China, I sometimes helped my grandmother scrub her kitchen floor. No, my mom said, I don't want you near that stuff. She pointed at the maid cart filled with various colorful bottles of cleaning solutions. Then I'll man the front desk, I said. I'll call you if I need anything. I ran out of the room and down the stairs before she could say no. I got this, I told myself on my way over to the front desk. This was not going to be like the restaurant. This time I was not going to fail. All I had to do was hand out keys and take the cash. How hard could it be? I got into position, climbing onto the front desk stool and crossing my hands on the desk. It did not take long before the customers started coming. Unfortunately, when they saw me, the first thing they did was ask to speak to the manager. So then I had to go get my mom. Up and down the stairs I ran. Every time she had to stop what she was doing to run down the stairs with me and into the front office just to hand the customer the key and take the money. By the 5th time, I thought, enough. I made a little sign and put it on the front desk. It read, Mia Tang, manager. The next time a customer came in and asked to see the manager, I pointed to the sign and I stared really hard at him. In science class at my last school, I learned that if you want a mammal to do something, you should stare at it. That's because mammals are social creatures and we're really into hierarchy. At the top, you have your alpha, the leader, and then your betas and the omegas. The difference between an alpha and a beta is the alpha wins every staring contest. So I stared and I stared until my eyes went blurry and I was starting to see double. And even then, I refused to blink. Finally, the customer broke down and said, Okay, fine. I just need a room for the night. Yes, it worked. That'll be $20 plus tax, I told him. I watched as he dug into his pocket, pulled out a 20 and a 5, and slid the bills across the desk. I gave him back his change and his key. The whole time, I couldn't believe it was really happening. I was just a kid, but I had asked an adult to hand me money, and he actually did it. I repeated my strategy with everyone else who walked through the door that day. Point, stare, point, stare. Eventually, I didn't even need to stare. People just went ahead and gave me the money. I was so happy. I hopped off the stool, opened the vending machine, and treated myself to a cream soda. I got one for Hank, too, and went to find him. Unfortunately, he wasn't home. Fred one of the other weeklies, said he was working and wouldn't be home until late. When I got back to the front desk, the phone was ringing. The Calavista had an old-fashioned orange phone with a ton more buttons than a usual one. I didn't know what the extra buttons did, and for a second I fantasized that if we pushed the wrong button, the motel would start flying. Hello? I asked, picking up the receiver. Is this the front desk? A voice asked. I looked at the glowing light and saw that the call was coming from room 6, which I had just rented out to Mr. Stein. I cleared my voice. Mr. Stein, how can I help you? I asked, putting on my best customer service voice. I need a wake-up call tomorrow at 5 a.m., Mr. Stein said. Wake-up call, 5 a.m., I repeated. You got it. Don't forget, I have to leave then for a very important meeting. I promised I wouldn't and hung up. For the next half hour, I studied the complicated phone system. There was a manual in the drawer, but it was one of those manuals that was impossible to read. It was like the manual they wrote for the walkie-talkies my mom used to make at the factory in China. Her walkie-talkies were great, but when they shipped them to America, nobody could figure out how they worked because the manuals were full of typos and mistakes. I chuckled and I wondered if the Calavista phone system was also made in China, like me. It made me feel strangely close to it. All right, old friend, I said to the phone system, let's do this. I punched in the code for the wake-up call and entered in the room number and time. To my amazement, the phone system made a beep. It worked. Pride swelled inside of me as I drifted to sleep that night. It was a glorious first day. I'd rented out 12 rooms, 7 of which I'd done all by myself. Not only that, I'd gotten the phone system to work. I didn't need to worry about getting up early to wake up Mr. Stein. I could sleep easy, knowing the awesome phone system would do it for me. Then the morning came. Okay, class, that's it for this read aloud. I have an assignment for you for this week. It's a pretty simple assignment. I decided since I read you 2 chapters, a really nice thing for us to practice would be summaries. So I'm going to ask you to write some chapter summaries for me. For 3rd graders, I'd like you to write 1 chapter summary. For 4th graders, I'd like you to practice doing paragraphs that are summary paragraphs and do 2 summary paragraphs. So what I need for those is I need you to do an introductory sentence. I need a couple of detailed sentences, whatever you think is most important in that chapter. And then I'd like you to give me a concluding sentence that wraps it all up. So it's as simple as that. Just go ahead, do that writing for me in your reading response book, or right now we're into Schoology. So you could be using the Schoology course page, and you could go in there, you'll find the assignment there, and you could type it up right there for me, and then I'll be able to see it. All right? So you've got 2 different choices. Either use the Schoology site and put your assignment there, or you can write it up in your reading response book. And if you want me to see it, you could take a picture of it and send that to me, attach it to an email. That'd be great. So that's it for now. It's really great to see you. I hope you're doing very well at home with your families. I miss you so much. And I'm so glad we're starting to see each other with our little meetings that are the one-on-one meetings between me and each of you. That's going well. And I also am really enjoying our times when we have our big class meetings together and we do learning together. All right? So take good care, and I'll see you next time.